Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Retail Perch. And as we draw close up to the number 100 here, Gary, I think we're on 96. Welcome to my co-host, Gary Hawkins.
So what are we going to do at 100, Shaker? We're going to have some special, super special guest on.
I guess so, yeah. It almost feels like the 4th of July. We should do the episode before the 4th of July, like celebrate the centenary.
We got a few days to go.
Yeah. Well, summer is in here and looks like the Canadian forest fires are invading all the US cities. So
yes, yeah.
We got an air quality alert back here again today. But Gary, I think we're having a great time. I got a lot of comments back on our ChatGPT episode. A lot of people really like that. So I have a feeling we might have to invite ChatGPT back on by popular demand.
Yes, I think we will. Maybe we can invite version 4 on when
that's right. Yeah. Well, it's paid. Maybe they'd give it to us free if they listen to this episode.
There you go.
Anyway, one of the perks of doing this. So anyway, listen, guys, today we have another guest, a very unique topic. I don't think we really touched on this topic again, and it just amazes me, Gary. We haven't been doing this for nearly 100 episodes, and we still keep running into new areas that we haven't touched. It's just a testament to how diverse retail is. But I'll let Max introduce himself. Max is dialing in from Dublin, Ireland, but he lives in Germany, and he's the CEO and founder of Spectrm, which is a social conversational commerce company. And he's going to talk to us a little bit more about that. But before we do that, Max, welcome to the show. And we'd love to hear a little bit about your background and how you wound up with Spectrm.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. About myself, I actually have a background in law, which surprisingly helps me all the time in business. But even though it has nothing to do with tech, and now ChatGPT can also do a lot of law stuff as well. What we're doing here at Spectrm is we help large enterprise companies like retailers, automotives, or app companies to use messaging platforms like WhatsApp, Instagram DMs, or Messenger for their marketing, which is very, very exciting because these platforms are the biggest platform we have in the world, with 1.5 billion users each, which is crazy, and people are doing nothing more than texting and messaging each other. And these platforms are open for business, and we help these companies to use that. And I think Deichmann, which is one of the largest food retailer in Europe, was also one of our customers, was in the earnings call of Meta last year for the digital transformation they did with messaging. So
wow.
Really exciting topic for retailers.
But I got stuck on the first part of your conversation. You were a lawyer. How did you wind up with this?
That's the long one. The short answer is I got also involved into politics when I was 23 years old and was running for national parliament in Germany against the current president of Germany. Back then, he was the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And that's why I landed in national TV, because everybody wanted to see what is a 23-year-old guy, why is he candidating against the current Minister of Foreign Affairs, and so on. So they got me on national TV. So that's why I got involved a lot with journalism and journalists. And that's why we initially founded the company for journalists and got CNN on Messenger and so on. So that's how we started. And then at some point we realized the problem for marketers is even bigger to reach their customers, and we went all in on marketing. So that's the story.
So Shaker, I think that's one of the more interesting backgrounds that we've heard from our guests.
Definitely. My God. So 23 years old, you're running for national election. Is that right? For the parliament? Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. So what got you into, I know we'll get back to the main topic, but this is really fascinating. What got you into running for the election?
When I was 18, I already was in my hometown with 45,000 people. I was already candidating to become a city council, and I got elected with 18 already.
Is this some kind of record? Like you must have been the
It
youngest.
is. It's the youngest you can be, because you only with 18 you can candidate for that. And I really just a few days after my birthday, my 18th birthday, I did that. So then I became a city council. And when you're in local politics, and that was also local politics means you have a lot of influence on people's lives, because it's all about the tiny things you can really concretely improve the lives of your citizens and the people around you, your neighbors. Yeah, that's how I got into politics, and it got really quickly exciting. And at some point, all of a sudden, you candidate for national parliament.
I got a question for you. Do you have a sister named Greta?
No, not that I know of, but it would be my small one.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. So 18, you're running for city council. You got elected. So that must be some kind of record in Germany, the youngest city council person or something like that.
Yeah.
Man. Okay, I'm not sure if you want to continue talking about retail, Gary. Maybe we should just go down this topic. But that's fascinating. So you at 23, you realized, okay, you want to do something for journalists, and you realize that there's a bigger issue with marketers, and kind of moved into. And so, how long ago was this?
So we started. So I had to finish in between. I had to finish law school, basically. So that was important also for my mom to do that. So when we founded the company in very late 2015 already, 2016, then we became with a 3-people team, we became launch partner for the Messenger platform for businesses, and did that for 2 years for journalists. And then at some point we realized, hey, it's better to go for marketing. So we're doing the marketing one probably now for almost 5 years.
Wow.
So do you find, I was reading some of the stats on your website, blog post that I got, and it looks like the EU is definitely leading in terms of use of Messenger and other DM services for marketing over the US. Is that a fact?
It's correct. So in the US, if you compare the two ones, in the US, SMS is now, I think SMS is now adopted by almost 50% of the e-commerce marketeers. And you get a lot of, promotions, join our SMS list and so on. Companies like Attentive, Emotive, and so on, very successful in the US. The problem is for the EU is SMS is not important here, right? In the US, the amount of SMS that was sent 10 years ago compared to today is about the same, right? It's roughly the same level. In the EU, it's 10x lower now. So SMS is falling off the cliff. It just lost, again, 30% from 2021 to 22. So SMS is gone in 5 years in Europe. Everybody's switching off. Everybody's switching to WhatsApp, Messenger, and so on. So that's why Europe is leading here. Other parts of the world, South America, Southeast Asia, they're all already on other platforms. The US is a little bit actually a special case, but it's still on SMS and iMessage.
Yeah, which is so true, Gary. If you go to India, everything is on WhatsApp. I mean, like businesses run on WhatsApp, right?
Yeah.
And here, I think the United States, you find that if you are brought up here, you almost never use WhatsApp. Most of the community that uses WhatsApp in the United States tends to be the immigrant community.
Yes.
We're trying to keep in touch with, people back home, or if you're from Europe or, one of these places.
Yeah.
And it's never quite taken off. And I can't understand what the reason is.
I think I have an idea of that, a theory, I would say, and that is the higher amount of iPhones that exist in the US. So I think the market share of iPhones is almost more than double compared to Europe and other parts of the world. So that's why more people are using iMessage still. And in Europe and in all the rest of the world, the adoption away was that you were on Android, so you were on WhatsApp or on Messenger. So that's why it took off so quickly.
You're probably right. That's a good call out. And I think people here, I find, are also a little bit more, I can't say averse, but it doesn't go over as well. Like if I started receiving messages from companies that I didn't know of or didn't give permission to, I'm gonna turn it off really, really quickly. So I think simply because we're not used to it, I think.
Right. Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. It is not seen as a marketing channel here.
Yeah. Although I got to say, from customer service perspective, I've used Twitter very effectively. Like I DM a business, like if I got a complaint, I'll DM the business and I get a response really fast because they're monitoring those channels. But I'm only used to complain. I mean, if you're listening to me, I do more complimenting than complaining, but I found that Twitter is very effective for customer service. So tell me a little bit more about how do you use this? I mean, when you say using it for marketing, how are you using messaging for marketing?
There are different ways of course, how you could use that. You can use it to re-engage your existing CRM audience, right? So you can upload your audience to WhatsApp, for example, and reach out to them if you have the marketing consent. That's, for example, it's possible. You can also have on Instagram, you could ask people, hey, do you have trouble to find the right product? Because you have a lot of products, or you have a complicated product that needs explanation. You send them into the chat where an automated chatbot is helping people to find the right genes, to configure a car, or whatever you design. Basically, they can have completely fully automated conversations, which basically mimic the shop assistant, right? So the shop assistant is asking, hey, do you need help? Explain the product. So that's something you can mimic with a chatbot in these on these chat platforms. And that's very effectively, because you get so many people so quickly into this chat. It's so natural to interact on these channels because you do that all the time with your friends and your family. And that's how the retailers are using this, finding the right shoe, for example, with the Deichmann example, the largest food retailer in Europe.
Wow. That's super interesting. So your platform is a way of enabling those marketing messages, so helping you understand what does Spectrm exactly do then?
So in very simple terms, it does two things, right? So we enable you to create a compelling user journey, a compelling chatbot on how to do that, how guiding people in the chat, so that you don't have to, if 100,000 of people and millions of people are reaching out to you, so that you don't have to do that manually. So that's the chatbot part. Very, very simple. And the other part is orchestrating the marketing messages you are sending out. That's the second, right? So is it a welcome message? Is it a win back message? Is it a newsletter? Whatever you want to create, how personal you want to go, that's all possible with our platform. So these are the main two things we take care of.
So Max, do you then integrate back into the company's other systems, like their CRM system or other things?
Yes, correctly.
Okay.
So are they doing segmentation and stuff like that on your platform, or is that something that they manage?
They can manage this on our platform. And I tell you about the segmentation is that in a chat on WhatsApp or on Instagram, you learn more in one chat about the customer than you do on email for an entire year. Right. Because in the chat, right, so you have these declared and preferences, the zero-party data, which is so exciting. You ask, do you like Adidas and Nike? They tell you. You ask what kind of size you have, they tell you, and you can store this information with this individual user, because you have it in one thread, in one chat, and you can store it in your CRM and you have it, right? Figuring out the same information about this user in a different way takes you ages.
Wow, and I'm guessing that the engagement rate is also much higher, right, over email, anytime, any day, right?
It's between 8x and 10x more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess you're also consuming less information. I mean, what you're sending in a chat is just a couple of lines of text, and it's more easier for somebody to read that and respond to it, as opposed to an email, which tends to be, has to be designed, tested, formatted, sent, than this, right?
And if you want, you can always, keep on the conversation, right? So you can keep on going, right? You ask, you want to know more, you click a button inside the chat, then the next messages are coming. You can design this user journeys inside the chat, which email is a no reply to one too many, no reply. And messaging is one-to-one and completely please reply. We can answer that automatically. So it's a completely new way of interacting with customers, which is fantastic because you can build a relationship with users, which is so important these days because it's getting harder and harder to do that because the emails you're sending are all in this folder in Gmail for promotions, right? So you don't get through push notifications. Apple and Android are nudging you to opt out, right? So it's gotten really hard to get to the consumer, and messaging is probably the most effective channel out there.
Yeah, so Gary, the thoughts crossing my mind. If I was in a supermarket, a big one, and I'm looking for a product, and I mean, if there was a chatbot that I could communicate with and ask a question like, hey, where do I find this unsalted butter organic?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm in store number 142, and if I get a response from a chatbot in a second, that would, I think, just be incredibly awesome instead of having to teach somebody how to use an app, look up a product, locate it. I mean, there's just many uses that I can see where it's just from a interaction perspective could be super useful.
Yeah, and you could even, go much further, right? With, hey, I'm in aisle 3 in front of the pasta section. Which pastas are gluten-free?
That would all work, but also, imagine loyalty programs, right? So every retailer these days has or should have a loyalty program to get your most important customers back into the store, right? How often is that a real hustle to do that, right? You have to sign up to do that. You have to enter all the information when you're standing in the store to get a short discount or something. You can do this via chat. It's just much more convenient. You can do that. You can reach your customers and after that more effectively. You can share the location and make recommendation based on location, because in chat you have so many more options than an email, right? You can share your location, you can send images, we can process images automatically, recognizing this with AI and tell you what kind of product that is, for example. That's all possible. So this is really the new shiny world.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, how do you change behavior, right, for somebody to do it? I mean, something seems so logical and obvious to do, but sometimes it's like QR codes. They've been around for the longest time, but until the pandemic, they never really quite took off in the US.
Yeah. So Max, do you work with any companies here in the US?
Yes, we do. Ford, for example, is one of the largest or largest US.
Okay, but so then do you see significant differences between US adoption or use of this channel versus what's happening in Europe?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit of different. I think the Instagram is much more important. Then WhatsApp is completely, so far, not so much important. I've seen when I was in New York 2 weeks ago, I saw billboards for WhatsApp from Meta. I've never seen billboards for WhatsApp in Europe. Anyway,
It's
at any
default,
point, right? So
right?
it's the default. It's infrastructure, right? So I've never seen that. I think the biggest difference is that SMS is already there, and SMS is already used by a lot of companies. So opening up a different channel requires thought, and you just need to make sure, how is that different to SMS, right? What's different here versus SMS? Because what you don't want to have is, join us here, or here, and then nobody's joining.
Right. Yeah.
Totally agree. I mean, I think Gary we can probably come up with 50 use cases of how this could be effective.
Yeah,
it all comes down to how do you change behavior so that they adopt this platform. And I think there's very little appetite, and I've seen a lot of retailers drop their SMS marketing programs, because it's also much more expensive, because now you're dealing with carriers to send the messages out, and then a response costs you, the customer doesn't want to pay, so you wind up having to pay to process those messages. So just from a cost perspective, I think people find it prohibitive. And I know there's platforms here like Twilio which you must obviously know who are into this game. But a lot of that seems like it's being used for transactional messaging than it is for two-way communication. Like I'll get a notification from Marriott saying, hey, your room is confirmed and booked, or your shipment is arriving tomorrow from a company. Very rarely is it something that asks me to send something back to them.
Yeah, but what a kind of a wasted opportunity that is, right? These no reply SMS. I think every time that is a customer interaction, that is a wasted opportunity. Imagine I would send you the SMS and would say, do you need anything more? Can I, upsell you with something? Can I increase your LTV with that message? Because I'm asking you proactively if you need something more, and you have some buttons or options to just select to do that. I mean, that would be amazing. So I think every no reply SMS or email is always a wasted opportunity, because there's so much more. If you communicate correctly with customers, you can get it from them and out of them.
So then clients, companies you work with, they build the sort of customer journey through your platform, and then you integrate back into the company's different data sources as needed, right? Loyalty or whatever it might be.
Correct. Yeah. And
wow.
Exclusive info for these listeners of this pod is the messages on IG and Messenger are for free, right? So you don't have the carrier costs. So
right.
It's for free.
That's right.
It's profitable.
Yeah, no, and that's, as Shaker was just saying, that's a big thing here in the US market. Why SMS is not used more.
I mean, there's many issues, right? You need to get a short code. A short code costs you something, right? And then you got to pay that on an annual basis. Plus, you got to pay for the messages that go out. And typically, a lot of these companies will charge you for both inbound and outbound messages.
Right.
And otherwise, you had to put this disclaimer saying that data rates apply for all these interactions. I mean, there's just so many issues that I can see being presented here. But tell us, Max, do you have a couple of use cases or stories from your experience that you found that you think would be valuable for our listeners here to hear?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can give you a use case from one of the largest e-commerce companies in Europe, and how they, created really, with zero marketing budget, created a viral moment with messaging, which sparked waves that was discussed in podcasts, in industry newsletters, and everywhere. And they had thousands and millions of users joining their chat. So how did that work is they used, they said, if you're joining our chat, you get a voucher and they did it really extremely. You get a 50% voucher if you're among the first 10,000 people joining.
Okay.
If you're not among the 10,001 to 20,000, you get 49%.
Okay.
And that's a voucher mechanic, basically. So it was counting down, and you do that, and they just put that out there and said, write to us FOMO. And people were doing this, of course, like crazy, because they wanted to get the vouchers into that. And that's why they got so many users. Everybody was sharing this, getting in there, because you have everything, right? So you have a strong incentive to join. You have this fear of missing out, this urgency to do something. And that is something that's a perfect storm, basically, to drive a lot of revenue in a very, very short amount of time. Not everybody can do that, but taking two mechanics, right? The virality of social plus the ability in messaging to hand out an individual voucher to a user. And that's a combination that drives a lot of revenue for even a very large company, the second largest e-commerce group in Germany.
Wow.
Interesting.
So that's
do you guys also do sentiment analysis? I'm sure you do that based on responses that you get back from users, right?
Mm-hmm. We do that, yeah.
And how is that fed back to the business? How are they using that?
That's a good question how they use that. They most of the time use that to see if they're sending out orchestrating messages to the users, if that is well perceived, because in messaging is a very private channel and I cannot spam users here. I mean, Meta puts in there very good controls for that, but still you want to make sure that if you reach out to users that this is as expected, and this is a nice personalized message and so on. So most of the sentiment analysis is happening around that. So, is that positive? Is that negative? Aside from the CTR, right? The CTR only tells you how many people are really excited about the offer, but it doesn't tell you of the people that have not clicked, are they annoyed by that or not? So that's the sentiment analysis they do.
Right. Fascinating. So the question is around the what channels are you currently using, and what's the most popular channel for this messaging? Is it WhatsApp or Instagram or Facebook Messenger? Where are you seeing more engagement?
Yeah, good question. I think so. Messaging platforms have a very strong network effect. So once a platform is the dominant platform, it's by far the dominant platform in a country. So Germany is a WhatsApp country. It's green.
Right.
France is a messenger country. It's blue, right? So it's a blue country, as we say. So Poland is blue. Nordics are blue. Spain is green. Italy is green. India is green. Mexico is green. Right. So it really depends which platform you should go for, where the majority of the users are on. That's the first consideration. And then adding Instagram on top of that, because Instagram is everywhere as second channel because it's so close tied to the platform.
Mm.
And so where do you get the post?
Instagram to drive content and the other messaging platforms to communicate? Is that kind of how you look at it, or?
You can do both, right? So you can also use Instagram DMs. So let's say Instagram DMs, you can do very, very transactional, right? So you can ask, interested in the product, DM us. And then you get the product. You get a 15% voucher. Email, send us a DM and we get you the voucher. So, and you get them into the Instagram DMs and you subscribe them to receive updates. That's how you combine this, and that's how you also very quickly grow an Instagram messaging audience, which then is so powerful because on average on Instagram, when I post as a brand, I reach between 1% and 4% of my followers. I reach always 100% of my Instagram audience, DM audience, because I'm sending out a push notification, right. And the majority of the push notifications, they read this in the first 10 minutes.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah. Wow. So what do you think it takes to crack the US market?
That's a good question. It's a hard it's a very big question for us. We currently very preparing a lot for that. I think education is one part, right? So a lot of marketeers and in the industry just simply don't know about the functionalities you have there. I think the education part is big, right? So and for us we were very focused on showcasing what's already possible in Europe to drive that home, I think. But the education part is the hardest for now. And then getting some people on the ground to make sure that we can sell that and support that properly. So I think that's for us the biggest one to crack that. And we're very excited about that, to bring these very well vetted and proven playbooks to the US.
Right. And I know China, it's a big thing. It's not WhatsApp, it's their version of it. WeChat, right? It's very same thing in India. It's just transactions happen on WhatsApp. I mean, literally every Indian business that I have worked with, most of the communication is through WhatsApp. Very little happens via email, really. I mean, they kind of feel odd if you're asking them to send you an email. Most of the time, they just send you a message on WhatsApp, right? So
same here. We have I realized that when we have a customer, we are communicating. We launched with them a messenger project, and we did everything. We messaged each other the contract to sign on Messenger. Then we communicated for the project how to get started on Messenger. They then launched on Messenger for their users. I mean, the whole world can take place there. And I mean, the next logical step for that, and there are experiments in India and Mexico and a few other markets, is to bring also the payment into the chat. Yeah. So why do you have to go to the website? Why do you have to go to the app to make the transaction? And here, I think, especially WhatsApp, but also Messenger, which have just a much higher level of encryption, I think that's much superior also to SMS. Once I can check out there, SMS has no chance, because SMS always requires you to go to the website, sign in, yada, 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 put everything in. Once I have my credit card in WhatsApp and I just can, hit buy, it's obviously the better choice.
Yeah.
Well, if there's retailers in the US listening to this, and we're thinking there are quite a few, what do you think they need to do to try this? I mean, like, a lot of them were probably not even thinking in this direction, because there's a couple of things that come to mind. One is how many of my shoppers actually use WhatsApp, right? How many of them maybe there's more people using Messenger, and I think the other thing is there's a little bit of confusion. Facebook seems to go back and forth between needing a separate Messenger app to having Messenger within the app, versus I don't know where they are now. I think now it's back to a separate Messenger app, right? Briefly in between them. So what would you suggest to them if they want to try something like this?
If they are as a retailer, there is the first thing I have to figure out is who's responsible for that, right? So that's always, if want to do, the intention to do something is great. That's a good start. But how to get this off the ground, right, is really figuring out who should be responsible for that, because you can say, hey, this is the organic social team, right? So that the team that is running Instagram should do that. Or is that the omni-channel team? Or is that the loyalty team? So I think that's the first thing, to figure out a little bit, what is our first objective to test that? Is it to drive footfall traffic? Is it our sign up for our loyalty program? Is it something else? Is it our e-commerce business? Whatever it is, I think the first one is figure out who's responsible, or first the objective, then who's responsible for that. And then the use cases are already there. Then figuring out what kind of platform to use and so on. These are just then implementation details, right? So, but figuring out what's the first objective, how I start, and then who's responsible for that is most important, because in the end, I can get the entire customer journey into the chat, from really educating the user to transaction, shipping notifications I can get in there, and sign up for the loyalty program. That's the entire customer journey. But that can be also, causing some, being afraid of that, because I think I cannot do everything in chat. Where should I start somewhere? And I think finding this point to start is the most important one.
Right. And it looks like you need a buy-in from the organization, saying, hey, we're going to go this route, invest heavily, whether it's messaging in the store, the customers everywhere possible. And I think you're saying that there's chatbots and obviously automated mechanisms of interacting with 90% of these conversations with customers, right? Not everything requires a person behind it. You have some kind of AI and chatbots that can do that.
Yeah, there's no person involved, and I think being scared off because you can do everything and you can go all in. And I know that a lot of stores, for example, in Brazil, are already doing this. You see, just also in Italy. I was in Italy last week. Also, the biggest and luxury stores there, they already have writers on WhatsApp, right? So they already have that. You don't have to go all in at the beginning. Finding a niche use case, you can start with one store in doing that. I think, but finding the starting point without being scared by all the possibilities you have and this transformational value that you bring with messaging to an organization. You should not be scared by that. You just figure out a starting point. I think that's the most.
Yeah, Shaker, I've seen, so many retailers, though, not being proactive with trying to build engagement across new channels. That they tend to sit back And, well, when our shoppers are on this channel or that channel and there's enough of them, then we'll use it, instead of being more proactive with driving engagement and building it. And this just sounds like a perfect opportunity for more forward-looking retailers to really drive engagement. And then, Max, as you're saying, start small, but then, there's almost no end to what can be done here.
Yeah, and Gary, I think we've seen in our data that digitally engaged shoppers are your most loyal ones. They tend to, be more connected, spend more in stores. And looks like this is kind of like the next level. I mean, if you're using my app, that's still passive, right? Because I can find out what you're looking for and doing it, but you're not really communicating with me. But if I'm connected with you on a one-to-one basis through some kind of a, messaging platform, that's a much deeper connection.
Yes.
And I feel that what a retailer is really trying to do is fight for your mind space, right? You have 24 hours in a day, and that your brain is being occupied by multiple things. And what percentage of that time are you really thinking about the retailer? And if you don't have that one-to-one connection, it feels like you're losing out, and it's easy for another retailer to replace you, if they just come up with a better shiny object. Yeah. I really think this is terrific. So.
Yeah, no, I think it's something really big here in the US market.
Yeah. Terrific. Well, Max, my gosh, we've been talking, and we've kind of ran past the clock here, but this is like super interesting. I mean, of course, I think your background is amazing. The fact that you are a lawyer. So did you ever regret it at any point, saying I need to go back to practicing law?
Never. But I still practice law almost every week, because data compliance, GDPR, CCPA, and all this kind of stuff that is still very much present and important, because, right, it's a very private area of messaging. So managing consent properly and making sure everything is compliant, that's something that's also close to my heart. I graduated in that area and in data protection law. So I'm still doing that every day, or almost every day, every week for sure. So still doing that.
That's terrific. So what's the vision for Spectrm? Where are you planning to take it?
Our vision is to make for all brands, or for every brand we work with, make messaging their number one CRM channel where they communicate with their customers.
Cool. Fantastic. And how do people find you if they want to find you?
They find me on LinkedIn. I think that's the best way. That's my name is a little bit hard to pronounce, so you just read it out.
So Max Koziolek, right?
Koziolek, yes, exactly.
Koziolek.
Yeah, very good.
All right. Yeah. I got a few German friends, so that's terrific. Well, Max, thank you so much for this conversation. Gary, anything to add here?
This has been really interesting. So, Max, thanks for joining us from Dublin today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess we're going to thank the production team for putting this out. And Max, by the way, if you want the Retail Perch coffee mug, if you can send us your mailing address, we'll make sure we put one in the mail for you, so you can have coffee with us next time you're on the show. So
that sounds amazing. I will definitely do that. Thank you for offering that.
Super. Again, thank you for coming on the Retail Perch, and we'll talk to you soon. All the very best for your company.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
And I guess one day you're going to run for election again. Is that still on the cards, or?
I cannot give official statement.
Okay. You will neither confirm nor deny the allegation. Okay. All right. We'll leave it at that. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye. Make sure to join us every Monday and connect with us at the Retail Perch on Instagram and Facebook.
And if you have any questions, feel free to email us at theretailperch@birdseye.com.
Until next time, this is Shaker.
And this is Gary, signing off.